are sergeant at arms out there? Just a couple. When you joined a club, what did you think the sergeant at arms did? Were you expecting somebody to sit in the front of the room and make sure there was no trouble happening in the room? That's what I thought a sergeant at arms was. I thought it was going to be somebody that sat in the front of the room because something was going to go wrong and they needed someone to stop that thing from happening. And I thought that because in my second club that I ever visited, there was a guy that sat at the front door, guarded the door, and wouldn't let anybody through the door who wasn't dressed appropriately. Ooh is exactly the right response. That meant that if you were trying to sneak in late, or if you didn't know that it required a shirt and tie for a guy or professional dress for a female, that meant that you weren't getting into the meeting. How many of you think that is a good idea? Very good. I'm glad nobody's arms went up. That's very good. That is not what the sergeant at arms does. The sergeant at arms is the very first person most of us meet when we first walk into the room, when the very first meeting. And why is that? Because we came in late thinking we could sneak into a seat and nobody would notice. We didn't know what we were doing. We just knew it was a group that talked about things and we had no idea where we were going. We just thought that we were going to go there, sneak in, and that sergeant at arms was the first person that we ever met at Toastmasters. That's not really it. Sergeant at arms organized 3 different types of meetings within Toastmasters clubs. We have the in-person meetings, we have our online meetings, and of course we have the combination of the 2 hybrid meetings. Those 3 things require different skill sets and different technology and resources that we bring. First, let's talk about in-person meetings. Every time a group gathers, what's the most important thing that you think a sergeant at arms can do? Have the key to the room. We are in South Carolina. How many of you want to stand outside and meet, possibly in the rain, instead of inside in the air conditioning? Nobody wants that. If your sergeant at arms can't get to the meeting on time and doesn't unlock the door, all of a sudden it is a very wet meeting. In the winter, it is a very cold meeting. Your sergeant at arms sets up the room. When we first walked in here today, it was an empty slate. There were tables stacked neatly in the room, chairs stacked neatly on the side, and everyone came together to pull all of the resources out and set up the meeting. Eric got the computer hooked up, Katrina got the camera hooked up, we set up tables and chairs. You notice I said we. A sergeant at arms is not responsible, once again, not responsible for everything. You're responsible for organizing everything. Have a group that comes in and sets up your room to make sure that you know what's happening in the room and that you can create the atmosphere you need for the meeting with the tools you need for the meeting. In-person meetings, that means have a key, unlock the door, make sure the lights turn on. You have air conditioning in the summer, heat in the winter. Make sure that you have tables and chairs available and enough of them for the entire group. If you're doing a contest, please organize the contest ahead of time. Get a bigger room if you have a small room normally because you're going to have unofficial visitors that nobody knows why they're coming to the meeting for the first time. We call them judges. Make sure your space is big enough to accommodate everybody who's going to be there. Within that in-person meeting, the other big thing you need to do as a sergeant at arms is ensure that as the speakers are speaking, nobody's walking through the door. Give your speakers the opportunity to be able to finish their remarks before you let somebody in, guide them in, help them find a seat, and set them up with a buddy so they understand why we're doing Toastmasters aerobics. Standing up, sitting down, shaking hands, clapping incessantly for everything that happens. Find them a buddy in the room to set them with so they understand what's happening. In-person meetings are a little bit different from online meetings. Online meetings are, again, those meetings that you have where you just get to meet from the comfort of your own home without having to go anywhere. We got great at these during COVID. Some clubs chose to stay online. So what are the things you need for an online meeting that are different? A, you need someone to host your meeting, whether it be Udly or whether it be Zoom or whether it be any of the other platforms that are out there. Teams, on Facebook, whatever you want to use for your meeting, make sure that there's an account, that the account is updated, and that it is paid for ahead of time so that halfway through the meeting it doesn't shut off. If you're going to have a big group, make sure that it can host enough people in the meeting to be able to accommodate everyone that's going to visit. If you're going to have an in-person meeting, the Sergeant at Arms often becomes the Zoom master, letting people in and out of the meeting at appropriate times, making sure that the right people are coming into the meeting and not coming into Zoom bomb you, and ensuring that there's some sort of decor that happens within the actual meeting itself. This little square that we have, this little box, this becomes our entire meeting room. We talk straight to a white light, and the Sergeant at Arms ensures that we have a white light to talk to. The other thing that they do for an in-person meeting that's a little bit different from an online meeting is when you're in person, it's only one space. When you are online, you're talking to a group from all around. When you're sending out your Zoom links, put the time zone in which you operate. If you are a 7 a.m. club, I'm in a 7 a.m. club, that's 7 a.m. Eastern time. Guess what time that is if you're in California? It's the middle of the night. Make sure those folks know when you start, so if they're going to come in, they don't all of a sudden realize they're missing your meeting by 2 hours. Online meetings are a little bit different than from in-person meetings. Encourage folks when they're at home and they're doing in-person meetings, try to make sure that they set up lights so they can see, so folks online can see you. Make sure that there's a microphone strong enough that they can pick up your voice. Oftentimes the mics that we use from computers and laptops aren't the best mics we can ever possibly have. Invest a little bit, ensure that your members understand their presence, and practice this. Online meetings are a great way to be able to practice a skill set we never knew we needed 3 years ago or 5 years ago, but we know we're going to always need going forward. And then there are the hybrid meetings. Hybrid meetings require the most work from any Sergeant at Arms because you're setting up an online meeting and you're setting up an in-person meeting. They're together. So you're setting up tables and chairs for folks to be able to come into the meeting. There's technology you need for a hybrid that you don't necessarily need for an in-person or for an online meeting. For instance, having a multi-directional mic that can pick up conversation from different places within the room, and a good multi-directional mic is imperative so that everybody can hear what's going on. Multiple camera angles are also very helpful for hybrid meetings. Not only do you want people to be able to see you when you're in the room, but you want those folks that are online to be able to see what's happening out in the world. If you have a camera shooting the audience, not shooting at the audience, but videoing the audience, providing some sort, that's a different meeting, that's why we have a Sergeant at Arms, right? So that doesn't happen. You have somebody there who is videoing the audience, a camera from one side, and one looking back at you. Everybody there is seeing the same thing. There's an opportunity to be immersive within the type of meeting that you're having. You also want to ensure that for the folks that are in the room, there is some sort of large screen that they can then see what's happening online. This is very different from what you're doing with an in-person meeting or just an online meeting. It's much more expansive. You know that suitcase that everything fits in very neatly for an in-person meeting? Those don't fit all the extra equipment that you're going to need. There's going to be an investment from your club in this sort of technology. That's why, as we're talking about during the treasurer training, most clubs have some sort of local dues. A lot of those local dues go to pay for, especially for hybrid clubs, multi-directional mics, extra monitors, extra cameras, and somebody to host whatever meeting it is that you're having there. 3 different types of meetings, 3 different situations, 3 different skill sets. Before the meeting starts, Sergeant at Arms are the ones that are going to make sure that they're the liaison between where you're meeting and the club itself. Again, they're the one with the key, no meeting. Make sure that they know where they're going to meet. If you're meeting in a library like we are today, oftentimes if your regular meeting is at a library, you can only sign up 3 weeks in advance for that space. Somebody has to be in charge of making sure you're signing up for that space. If you're in a church, oftentimes there needs to be a member of Toastmasters who's also a member of the church. If that member is leaving Toastmasters, you're probably going to have to end up finding a new place to meet. Sergeant at Arms is the one that gets to go out into the public, along with oftentimes the VP of Membership and VP of PR, to go look for a new place, something that's going to be attractive for members to come in, accessible for everybody to get to, and be able to ensure that everyone knows where to go. You are the Sherpa. you carry the stuff. Now, if you have a really good relationship, a positive relationship with your meeting space, oftentimes they'll give you a cabinet to put your suitcase in. Hopefully you've invested in some sort of a rolling contraption, whether it be one of the carts you take to the beach, or one of the old baseball carts from when your kids no longer play ball anymore, or a suitcase to put everything from timing lights, to cameras, to all the forms you use, to the voting sheets, all of that within a suitcase you can wheel around back and forth. You are the Sherpa, meaning that if you leave that suitcase in your car and your car gets towed away, all of a sudden your stuff is sitting at the impound lot instead of at the meeting. What happens then? You have a backup plan. Yes, you have a backup plan. You have a second set that somebody else has within their possession of, instead of timing lights, maybe they're just 3 colored envelopes. You can have red, yellow, and green cards. Maybe instead of a full selection of all the forms we use, they just have an extra welcome book, an extra guest log, whatever it is, something to be able to have the meeting take place itself. Have a second set, and by all means, have a second key, because if your key to the room is sitting at the impound lot in downtown Charleston, you can't get into the room. Make sure that there's a backup for everything. Also, because you're the Sherpa, when you run out of things, before those forms go empty, whether it be grammarian forms or all-counter forms, whatever it is, ask them to make copies. They're probably sitting, hopefully the secretary has put them online into some sort of a shared drive. Assign someone to say, hey, we're out of forms. Somebody go print those out and bring those to the meeting next time. You organize all of the contraptions we need in order to have a successful meeting. Outside of the meeting, you are the administration to ensure that the community knows where you are, that you're happening. In South Carolina, we have these little things that happen throughout the summer. We call them hurricanes. We name them every time that they blow through town. What happens when the place that we are meeting at is closed because of a storm? Somebody has to get that message out to the club. Not great if you have 12 members show up at a church to have a meeting that is now boarded because there is a hurricane coming in and nobody thought to tell anyone. There are folks laughing here. We know the pain of this because we've been the folks that have showed up to an event there that obviously couldn't happen. You're the folks that were able to go out into the community and make sure that everything is organized before you start. You're also going to help with the contest. Sergeant Arms to the contest, especially within the contest for table topics and evaluations, guide folks in and out of the room. There's multiple roles that have to happen there. Having a good Sergeant at Arms trains the other person for when to go get people to bring them back and forth throughout the room. They also ensure there's going to be enough seats, enough chairs, enough tables within the room itself to be able to accommodate everybody there. Again, contests are different from regular club meetings. Regular club meeting, 15 people maybe. Contest, maybe 30 people. Same size room doesn't always accommodate that. If you're someplace that you are opening that location, you're the first people in there, make sure you can get in early. If your normal meeting starts at 7 and your contest starts at 6:30, make sure that they know you're going to come there. Make sure that if someone has to unlock the door for you, that they can unlock the door for you. And if at all possible, get trophies for your contestants. Work with your club to make sure that there's enough money in there to get trophies instead of just a certificate. It makes the contest a little bit more powerful and a little bit of a better experience. The end goal, nobody joined Toastmasters to speak to 14 of your best friends. We all join Toastmasters to speak outside to do something better here. Sergeant at Arms creates the framework and the physicality to ensure that it works. They ensure that we have the laptops, the mics, cameras, tables, the chairs, the equipment, the banners, the space, and the key. Again, you can't reiterate there's enough. You have to have a key. They're the ones that create the opportunity to get everyone together to do this great thing that we call Toastmasters. I said the buck stops with the president. Kind of does, but if you don't unlock the door, it really stops with you. So make sure that you've created the opportunity for everyone to succeed, because while everyone's rules are important, nobody in South Carolina wants to meet in the parking lot in the rain. If you need help, reach out. We have resources available to you, and it is my honor to ask for questions and then to invite Sharon back up. for the next section.
Questions for anybody?
Online, in person?
Comment, question?
Nothing?
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Scott. As we are getting ready for the expert, what do we call it? The presenters panel Q&A, which we're gonna have chairs up here to the front. We're gonna move the laptop so they can see them, and then Leonard will come